The hype machine for Reese is currently running on pure jet fuel. People see that 6 feet 3 inches, 235-pound frame flying around the field, and they immediately think of Micah Parsons. But here's the cold, hard reality. Reese is the classic look like Tarzan, play like Jane's distant cousin prospect. He is an athletic freak of nature, yes, but he's essentially a heat-seeking missile with a broken GPS. He over-pursues, he bites on every single play-action fake like it's a free steak dinner, and his pass rush moves consist of running really fast in a straight line. If you're taking a guy at number 1 overall, he needs to be a finished product, not a $100 million construction project. Reese is a day 2 talent being sold at a Tiffany's price point. Now, if you think drafting a linebacker is risky, wait until you see the guy who is supposedly the safest quarterback in the class, but plays like he's terrified of his own shadow. That brings us to Ty Simpson from Alabama. Look, the Bama helmet adds at least 15 spots to your draft stock automatically. Simpson has the stats, over 3,500 yards, and a TD to INT ratio that makes accountants weep with joy, but watch the tape. Really watch it. When the pocket gets muddy, Simpson's internal clock doesn't just speed up, it explodes. He's a system-plus quarterback. He's great when the first read is open and the offensive line is a brick wall. But in the NFL, the line is a revolving door, and the first read is covered by a guy who runs a 4-3. Simpson lacks the it factor. He's the beige paint of quarterbacks. Serviceable, won't offend anyone, but you're not building a championship house around him. Quarterbacks are always a gamble, but at least they touch the ball every play. Imagine spending a top 10 pick on a guy who might only touch it 6 times a game. Let's talk about Zachariah Branch from Georgia. Branch is the most exciting player in college football when he has the ball. The problem? He's about the size of a standard-issue NFL water cooler. Every mock draft has him in the first round because he's the next Tyreek Hill. Newsflash, there is only one Tyreek Hill. Most guys who are 5 feet 10 inches and 175 pounds don't become superstars. They become punt returners who get folded like lawn chairs by 250-pound linebackers. Branch is a gadget player. You can't build a passing attack around a guy who can't win on a slant because he gets jammed into the bleachers. He's a luxury item for a team that has everything, but he's being mocked to teams that need a WR1. That's a recipe for a top 10 bust. Speaking of WR1s who might actually be WR3s in disguise, we need to take a trip back to Columbus. Carnell Tate is a great football player. Let's get that out of the way. But the 2026 hype is treating him like he's Marvin Harrison Jr. Part 2. He isn't. Tate is incredibly polished and runs routes like he's practicing for the Olympics. But he lacks that separation gear. In the NFL, open means you have 6 inches of space. Tate struggles to create that space against elite cornerbacks. He's the type of receiver who will have a solid 8-year career with 600 yards a season. But if you draft him at 12th overall expecting a superstar, you're going to be looking at your TV in 3 years, wondering where the highlights went. He's a high-floor, low-ceiling prospect in a draft where everyone is desperate for a penthouse. If you think the wide receivers are being overhyped, wait until you see the guys tasked with protecting the blind side. Starting with a man who seems to have feet made of lead. Caden Proctor at Alabama. At 360 pounds, Proctor is a literal mountain. The problem with mountains is that they don't move very well. Proctor was a 5-star recruit, so the media has been crowning him as the next great tackle since he was in middle school. But his pass sets are often sluggish. In the NFL, he's going to face guys like Will Anderson and Myles Garrett, speed rushers who will be around the corner before Proctor has even finished his first step. There's a very real chance Proctor ends up being a guard at the next level. Taking a projected guard in the top 15 is how GMs get fired and end up doing podcasts about what went wrong. But hey, maybe you don't need a fast tackle if your defensive tackle is so good he eats the quarterback before the play starts. Except this next guy hasn't actually eaten much of anything lately. Peter Woods from Clemson. 2 years ago, Woods was the chosen one. People were calling him the best interior prospect since Ndamukong Suh. Fast forward to now, and the production is fine. It's okay. It's definitely not top 5 pick material. Woods is a victim of his own early hype. He's a stout run defender, but in 2026, you don't spend a premium pick on a guy who just clogs gaps. You spend it on a guy who can collapse the pocket. Woods hasn't shown that consistent twitch. He's being mocked in the top 10 based on his high school recruiting ranking and the Clemson defensive line brand. But the tape says he's a mid to late first rounder at best. If a defensive tackle doesn't scare you, maybe a running back will, specifically one who is being projected higher than most Hall of Famers. Look, we have to address the elephant in the backfield. Jeremiah Love, out of Notre Dame. If you've spent 5 minutes on draft Twitter lately, you've seen the graphics. They've got him going as high as number 4 to the Titans or number 7 to the Giants. And I get it. On paper, he's a video game character. We're talking about a kid who put up 1,300 yards and 18 touchdowns while averaging nearly 7 yards a carry. He moves like he's covered in Teflon, and his track background means that once he hits the second level, your safeties are basically just spectators with front row seats to a touchdown. He's been compared to Reggie Bush, Alvin Kamara, and even Christian McCaffrey. But let's take a deep breath and put the hype train in park for a second, because we are dangerously close to repeating the top 10 RB mistake that has set franchises back for decades. The overrated alarm bells start ringing the second you look at his running mechanics. Love is the definition of a high-cut runner. He stands 6 foot, but he plays like he's 6'4", keeping his chest exposed and his center of gravity somewhere up near his chin. In the NFL, that's not just a style choice, it's a target. When 240-pound linebackers who run 4.4s see a ribcage that open, they don't just tackle you, they try to split you in half. There's a reason he only carried the ball 20-plus times in a game 3 times in his entire college career. Scouts are terrified that his frame simply won't hold up to the 250-touch workload you expect from a top 10 pick. If you draft a guy at number 5 overall and he's too lean to handle the goal line or too upright to survive a 17-game season, you didn't draft a franchise cornerstone. You drafted a very expensive luxury car that breaks down if you drive it over a pothole. Furthermore, let's talk about the receiving RB trap. Everyone loves to say he can run routes like a wideout, and yes, he's got hands like a magician. But his pass protection is still very much a work in progress. If you can't identify a blitzing nickelback or anchor against a charging defensive end, you aren't a 3-down back. You're a liability. Teams are projecting him as a CMC-style engine of an offense. But McCaffrey is built like a brick house and possesses elite lateral twitch. Love is much more linear. He wants to win with a track star burst. If he goes in the late first round to a team like the Chiefs or Niners as a weapon, he's a home run. But if a struggling team takes him in the top 5, expecting him to be the entire offense, that's not just overrated, that's a draft day catastrophe. Now, if you think a high-cut running style is a red flag, wait until you see the defensive tackle whose dominance disappears faster than my motivation on a Monday morning. Akeem Mesidor, edge, Miami. Mesidor is a beast. He had double-digit sacks and plays with a motor that would put a Tesla to shame. But here's the kicker. He's going to be 25 years old. In draft terms, that's basically 100. When you draft a 25-year-old in the first round, you're admitting that he's already as good as he's ever going to be. There's no upside. You're drafting a finished product who was bullying 19-year-olds in college. That production is skewed. Mesidor is a classic overvalued prospect because people see the sack numbers and forget to look at the birth certificate. He's a second-round value being pushed into the first by box score scouts. Speaking of guys bullying people, let's talk about a cornerback who might be the one getting bullied on Sundays. Keith Abney II from Arizona State. Abney is the hot name in the cornerback room right now. He's got the ball skills, he's got the swagger, and he's got the highlight reel interceptions. But he's also roughly the size of a large sandwich. Okay, maybe he's 5 feet 10 inches on a good day. In an NFL where every team has a 6 feet 4 inches receiver who can jump out of the gym, Abney is going to be a matchup liability. He's currently being mocked as a CB1 or CB2. But if you put him on an island against a physical receiver, he's going to get treated like a pesky fly. He's a slot corner being sold as an outside lockdown threat. Now we have a guy who is the definition of one-year wonder syndrome. Jordan Tyson, WR, Arizona State. Tyson burst onto the scene and everyone lost their minds. He's the most explosive player in the Pac-12, or whatever Arizona State is in now. But since that initial burst, the flaws have become craters. Drops, lazy routes, and an inability to deal with physical coverage. He's a vertical threat who doesn't want to do the dirty work. Yet, because he can run a 4.3, people keep putting him in the first round. Tyson is the fool's gold of the 2026 class. He'll give you one 70-yard touchdown that makes you think he's a superstar, and then disappear for 3 weeks.